Joe Biden talked a lot about bringing dignity and decency back to the White House, but as soon as he's in office, we get stories like this. FEC documents. Joe Biden's inauguration got a $1 million donation from aerospace defense giant Lockheed Martin, which makes F-35 jets a key part of the United Arab Emirates' $23 billion arms deal that the Biden administration is moving forward with after reviewing Trump's weapon sales. So do you understand what's going on there? I think this was originally reported, I think it was the New York Times, but I could be wrong about that. But anyway, they have the documents here that show it. The UAE gave $1 million for Joe Biden's inauguration, and then Joe Biden turned around and approved a Trump-era weapons deal that gives the UAE $23 billion worth of arms. So, in other words, Joe Biden will overlook human rights abuses and will give weapons to a tyrannical regime because his inauguration got $1 million from that tyrannical regime. So much for decency and dignity and humanity and leading with our values. This is the exact opposite. The story that this reminds me of is actually the Trump administration taking, I think it was the exact same number, $1 million from the predatory payday loan industry for his inauguration. And then as soon as he got in power, he shut down the investigations into the predatory payday loan industry, shut down the cases that were being waged against the predatory payday loan industry, and killed the Obama-era regulations that were just put in place. See, this story tells you more about politics than almost any other story. Because this is really how the sausage is made. This is really how the system works. It's gross, and it's really transparent, and it's basically open bribery, but this is the way it works. They'll give you the cover story and the flowery language and the platitudes and the cliches, and then they turn around and they're all doing this sort of stuff. Now, that's not to do a full false equivalence and say all politicians are exactly the same, but it is to say they all partake to one extent or another, or 96% of them partake to one extent or another in corruption and legalized bribery. That's what this is. And so you don't get decisions that are made on foreign policy based on a concern for human rights or democracy or freedom or justice. You get business decisions. You get business decisions, and that's what this is. They gave me $1 million. What am I going to do? Screw them out of the deal that was already signed? Who am I to do that? Who am I to say, let's try to shut down some human rights abusers and not arm them? I mean, you guys know my position on this. I'm a big believer in there should be an official U.S. policy if you don't arm anybody who's a human rights abuser, who has a documented history of human rights abuses, which means you're basically not going to arm anybody. But a lot of it's such a giant industry. The weapons industry is such a giant industry. The so-called defense industry is such a giant industry that you have jobs tied to that in all 50 states. And so people feel, even if they're otherwise decent politicians, they feel obligated to keep that gravy train going. And so here we are. Nobody should be okay with this state of affairs. This needs to change.